Hi, that's here, viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin right away with some major stories tonight. The bishops of Cameroon, the Catholic bishops, have expressed shock and consternation following the gruesome killing of Martinez Zogo on the outskirts of Yaoundé. They together expressed their shock in a communique which was signed today by the President of the National Episcopal Conference, His Grace Andrew Kia. We will be telling you more in this edition of the news, and also in this edition of the news, the chiefs of the lake here will perform some traditional rites on the site on which Martinez Zogo's body was dumped have come back to their utterances, saying they are sorry for some of the words they used on that site. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for being with us. We just told you in the headlines that some traditional rulers of the Lake division of the Central region, the region of origin of the murdered journalist Martinez Zogo, have said they are sorry for some utterances which they made at the site where the body of Martinez Zogo was dumped few days after he was killed and also tortured, besides being mutilated. A reporter, Innocent, has told us that some commentators think or speculate that those traditional chiefs must have been intimidated to come back to those utterances. Let's now have the reports of Innocent Aze.
The chief's apology letter addressed to President Paul Biya shocks many Cameroonians who still respect the head of state to ensure assassins of Martinez Zogo be investigated and brought to book. They who had accused the Defense and Security Forces and their chief commander for being responsible for the death of the journalist hailed the Leke chiefs and supported their first declaration that Zogo's body with maggots on it would not be buried in Leke but in Vomeka. From where hails the head of state qualified the chief's new reaction as backpedaling, politically geared. According to baffled Cameroonians, it is possible the Leke chiefs changed their stance to disappoint and abandon justice seekers along the road because of intimidation at the State Defense Secretariat set in Yaoundé, where they were summoned after their first bitter reaction against the head of state and his administration. These commentators go further to speculate the summon diluted their anger, after which they were received for an important consultation at the residence of the Leke elite, Minister Benoit Dong head in charge of missions at the Presidency of the Republic on January 27 at 5 p.m. While there, they declared they regret blaming the National Defense and Security Forces and the Supreme Commander for the death of their son and brother. According to them, bitter emotions took a greater part of them, compelling them to make the excessive statements and allegations on the crime scene. Thus, they presented deepest and sincere apologies to President Paul Biya, promising him their usual relentless support, knowing fully well their backpedaling will shock Cameroonians and the sons and daughters of Leke in particular. The chiefs passed them countless apologies. To show they are not completely forsaking Cameroonians, these Leke chiefs say they will continue mounting pressure for Martinez Zogo's killers to be arrested and punished in accordance with the laws of the Republic, so that it serves as a severe example to anyone who dares or who may be tempted in future to attack the Leke as a community.
And now we spoke to some other traditional rulers who explained to us how government interference into our traditions and culture could reduce our traditional values. Let's now have more with Babila Jonathan.
Ces assassins l'ont fait pourrir.
After traditional leaders of the Leke division in the central region of Cameroon rose up in anger over the brutal killing of their son, journalist Martinez Zogo, their statement triggered a wave of disapproval within traditional, elite and administrative circles, considering that Martinez Zogo died among other reasons for his open support to the head of state. They declared that they will not receive a corpse infested by maggots and suggested that it should be buried in President Bia's compound in Vokmeka, and this triggered pressure that began piling on them.
Peut-être certaines personnalités ont trouvé cela exagéré.
The pressure resulted to a change of position after the leader of the gathering of traditional authorities of the Leke division issued a release rejecting what his peers said about the head of state. Another press statement came from the same group of chiefs who made the first declaration in Ebogo, where the corpse of Martinez Zogo was found, asking for forgiveness from President Paul Biya. The forward and backward movement of the traditional rulers is considered by observers and critics as a proof that chiefs and funds have been reduced to political tools being manipulated by politicians and administrators.
C'est une infantilisation qu'on peut assumer.
It is a way of treating chiefs like children. However, the rites are not cancelled.
Les rites de Ndjik, si tant bien qu'on a fait le Ndjik, on ne peut pas annuler.
As auxiliaries of the administration, they had to explain that they did not intend to hinder the normal functioning of the state.
Ils ne sont pas là pour empêcher la République de bien fonctionner.
However, Mbongbok Mbegan decries what is qualified as a yoke of the administration on traditional rulers and the traditional administration.
L'autorité traditionnelle.
Traditional authorities in Cameroon have been misled. Those carrying the titles first class, second class and third class chiefs have been completely misled.
Deuxième degré, troisième degré.
To him, traditional leaders should not be auxiliaries of the administration in a bid to restore their authority, autonomy, credibility and the respect of the traditional administration.
And now, since the brutal killing of Martinez Zogo, the President of the Republic has been somehow silent. Our reporter Mala Glory in the report, which comes up next, tells us that the international community, Cameroonians, media, men and women want President Paul Biya to react to the gruesome killing of journalist Martinez Zogo.
Observers say the silence of the head of state over cases of murder and shocking deaths in Cameroon speaks volume. It is the case with the assassination of Martinez Zogo, which Cameroonians are yet to get a word from the country's president, who, according to him, promotes democracy through freedom of speech.
Le minimum, c'est que le président de la République dise quelque chose.
With the nature of the institutional system in
qui semblent s'affronter aujourd'hui à la tête de notre gouvernail
in such a serious situation like that of Martinez, the president is supposed to say a word while assuring the population of their security.
Visiblement fatigué, a encore un peu d'énergie et qu'il utilise cette énergie-là pour arrêter l'hégémonie.
Martinez Zogo, who throughout his professional career has always supported the activities and integrity of the head of state, is yet to defend.
Ce pays est dirigé, alors il doit prendre ses responsabilités, toutes ses responsabilités, mais alors.
The essential thing is for the President of the Republic to say something, because the different top officials in the country keep fighting each other, and only the intervention of the President can put an end to this battle. let him use his last strength to put an end to these clashes.
À cet assassinat crapuleux soit mis devant leurs responsabilités et sévèrement puni conformément à la loi.
On the part of the media practitioners, such a barbaric and horrible act deserves more than just a plain announcement from the Minister of Communication.
Vu la nature du système institutionnel qui est celui du Cameroun, connaissant le rôle, la prééminence.
He should take his responsibilities so that an investigation be launched and light be shed on this issue, and also for the perpetrators be brought to book and punished accordingly.
Qui est garant de la sécurité des biens et des personnes, mais surtout s'agissant d'un journaliste.
According to the different actors, the entire country is at risk, and only the intervention from the president can put things in order.
And now we told you in the headlines, viewers, that the bishops of Cameroon have reacted to the gruesome killing of journalist Martinez Zogo in a communique which was signed by the president of the National Episcopal Conference, His Grace, Monsignor Andrew Nkeya. That was earlier today. The communique reads, Declaration of the Bishops of Cameroon on the tragic death of Martinez Zogo. The bishops say it was with sadness and consternation. Just to mention that the communique is in French as at now. The bishop said it was with sadness and consternation that they received the tragic death of journalist Arsène Salomon Bami Zogo, known as Martinez Zogo, on Sunday, January 22, 2023. The event, they say, it's regrettable for Cameroon, which is already plagued by violence for some time now, and disturbing the peace and unity of the entire country. Nothing, according to the bishops, can be constructed in hate and violence. The bishops condemn fervently the barbaric acts, the killing brutally of Martinez Zogo, and the violence, and they say with dialogue we can surmount every seat of discord. The bishops of Cameroon want the culprits to be brought to book and also send their condolences to the bereaved family, that is the family of Martinez Zogo, and also the media family in Cameroon. We will be coming back to that detailing that will be in our subsequent news editions. Now, the National Bilingualism Week has been launched today in the nation's political capital by the Minister for Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga. And how practical is bilingualism in Cameroon? Our reporter Lucy Liengu Asia spoke to some Cameroonians in the streets of Douala.
Few days to the celebration of the National Day of Bilingualism in Cameroon, some inhabitants in the city of Douala say they find it difficult to speak both languages.
I speak French more than English. I don't speak English because I don't have opportunity to speak every time. If I have neighbors or classmates with who I can speak English, I will do it every time.
He says Cameroon is a bilingual country, but Cameroonians are not bilingual. They can't speak English. Others think schools have a major role in the promotion of both languages.
My children who are in bilingual schools, at home, they don't speak English every time. It's French that they are speaking. Then I don't know why.
To some, there are several factors affecting bilingualism in Cameroon.
If I come to an office that is a Frenchman, I want to speak big grammars that will confuse the person. He will not understand me, but if I speak the basic English, he will. Same as a Frenchman also. Speaking in a simple French system, we will easily understand.
Bilingualism is very good, a very good system. But the fact is that as we are living in our country, Anglophones and Francophones are not together. That's why we cannot speak both languages at the same time.
The National Day of Bilingualism, an event celebrated every first Friday, February of each year nationwide to promote the two official languages.
And now we talk politics. The chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Nijon Frundi, and his recently appointed Secretary General have been dragged to court. Some 32 party big wigs have petitioned the full High Court in the Central Region to annul a July 23rd decision which was taken by the chairman. Let's now have more with it for me, Armstrong Sander.
In the 11-page document circulated on social media, the petition has asked the court to annul 4 major decisions and resolutions of a contested National Executive Committee of the party in June and July 2022. Through an urgent legal procedure, the 32 disgruntled SDF party bigwigs accused Nijon Frundi and his recently appointed Secretary General of violating the SDF party text. On point number 1, the angry SDF party militants called for the annulment of the NEC resolution of July the 23rd, 2022 and that of the 10th of December 2022, sustaining that it violates Article 7 Sub 1A and B and Article 16 of the party related to the voting and to be voted rights of members of the Social Democratic Front. Here the petitioners accused the chairman, Nijon Frundi. On point number 2, the petitioners called for the annulment of the chairman's decision number 003/022 of the 7th of June 2022 appointing members of the party's shadow cabinet. The complainants say Nijon Frundi outrightly violated Article 11 2A1 on the obligation to engage a large-scale grassroots party consultation before the exercise. The petitioners further say Nijon Frundi violated the text which gives the responsibility to reorganize basic organs of the party to the Secretary General in charge of reorganization elected at the party's Congress, in which case is the former mayor of the Douala 4 Council, John Kumasi, elected during the last party Congress in Bamenda in the Northwest region. The petitioners further called for the annulment of 2 major decisions taken by the newly appointed SDF Secretary General, Barrister Adeline Jomgang. The two, the national chairman Nijon Frundi and the Secretary General, are expected to appear in court on February 9, 2023 in Yaoundé.
And now we talk health. Professor Aimé Boni, who is a cardiologist, and Professor Jean Baebek, who is an orthopedic surgeon, have condemned the poor functioning of state universities, especially the Faculty of Medicine. Speaking on the program on Equinoxe, La Vérité and Fast, they both question the type of training received by medical students in state universities who hardly attend lectures. Let's now have more with Immaculate Fogwe.
Professor Aimé Boni, a cardiologist and professor at the University of Douala, is concerned about the quality of services rendered in hospitals by some doctors across Cameroon. Speaking on the flagship program La Vérité en Face, he says the quality of training is questionable.
Est-ce que vous savez que le taux d'absentéisme
The rate of absenteeism in state universities is so high. I am a lecturer at the University of Douala, and about 80% of students don't attend lectures. This is a very delicate field, and we are dealing with human life. He regrets that these students are still allowed to graduate without the necessary training and field work needed to work in the medical field. Can you imagine confiding the life of a family member to someone who is not adequately trained? Yes, we are the ones evaluating them, but the problem is lecturers don't have the power to decide, despite being the ones working with the students. Teachers are scared to condemn what these deans do because they might get sacked. It is a sad reality. Reacting on the issue, Professor Jean Baebek says corruption and nepotism is to be blamed. The problem is some of these students don't attend lectures because they are looking for money which will enable them pay their school fees. Why not offer more scholarship programs? If someone can embezzle close to 80 billion francs CFA alone, what is hard to offer scholarships to these students? Some of the lecturers are equally given positions not because they are qualified, but because they either know someone who knows someone. Professor Aimé Boni says he has written several letters to the head of state explaining these irregularities faced in state universities offering medicine.
And now we talk sports. Players of the women's national football team are expected to leave the country today for Auckland to continue their preparation for the playoffs of the FIFA Women's World Cup. And over the weekend, Coach Gabriel Zobo published a list of 23 players, among them 2 newcomers who are Brenda Tabe and Nina Sofia Ngere. Smart Njikangebe profiles those 2 newcomers into the list.
19-year-old Brenda Tabi of Lekie Women's Football Club is one of the surprise package in the list of 23 players that was published by Cameroon's indomitable Lionesses head coach Gabriel Zabotoze to be part of the playoffs for the FIFA Women's World Cup. After playing for 2 seasons with Our Ladies of Yaoundé, where she won the trophy on 2 occasions, the talented attacker wrote her name in the history book of Thomas Our Football Club as she became the top scorer with 34 goals ahead of Eliane Bibut in 2022. Brenda Tabi was called up by Mike Ndumu to participate in the Military World Cup that took place in USA. She ended that tournament as top scorer with 8 goals, even though Cameroon lost at the finals to France 2-1. Due to her sensational performance, Brenda Tabi was nominated for the best player of the Female Super League, which she unfortunately lost to Ngok Monique, but was amongst the best 11 of the Female Super League in 2022. Her performance made it possible for the officials of Lekie Women's Football Club to cough out a huge sum of 2 million francs CFA. That is 1.4 million francs CFA for her transfer and a bonus of 560,000 francs CFA for her accommodation, making Brenda Tabi the highest paid lady in the history of the Women's Super League in Cameroon. With Lekie Ladies, she has already scored 3 goals this football season. Another newcomer is 18-year-old Nina Sofia Ngelu, who plays for French side Paris Saint-Germain's women's team. She has already played 3 matches this season and was part of PSG's team that played at the preseason friendly against Barcelona Femina. Her force, speed and spontaneous towards attack made it possible for her to be nominated for the title of the Tite Girl d'Or 2022. An award for the outstanding young player of PSG. Before being called up to the Lionesses then, in June 2022, she paid a visit to the Lionesses as they prepared for the African Women's Cup of Nations. A total of 6 locally based players and 17 professionals make up the 23 called up by Gabriel Zabotoze to fight for a ticket for the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand from July 20 to August 20, 2023. But Cameroon must pass through the playoff in New Zealand first against Thailand on the 18th of February, and a victory over Thailand will enable them clash with Portugal. A win for Cameroon against Portugal will qualify the Lionesses for the FIFA Women's World Cup later this year.
And so that was it for the first part of the news. Don't go away, viewers. Talking Point comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Ndibu Mimanwa. He is of the civil society. We will be discussing the Anglophone problem, the Anglophone crisis, and the proposed Canadian mediation. Thank you, Ndibu Mimanwa, for accepting to be our guest tonight on Talking Point. We will be talking, I just mentioned, we are talking about the hand Canada is extending to Cameroon to ensure, to help at ensuring that the Anglophone crisis comes to an end and soonest. Thank you once again and welcome. And now, before we talk about the Anglophone crisis, we cannot begin without you commenting on what has been making news for about a week now, or even more, the brutal killing of a journalist in Yaoundé, Martinez Zogo. You are of the civil society. How did you receive that news that was about a week ago, that a journalist was kidnapped, got missing for some days, was brutally killed and abandoned somewhere?
Good evening, Anne, and good evening to the Equinoxe family. I must say it's a pleasure again to be with you. But I think the problem of Martinez Zogo, the killing, the brutal assassination of this man who was just there to render services and, uncover some of the state vampires, some of the state fraudsters who have decided to take Cameroon down the gutters, is a news that no one should be indifferent of. But I am very, very sorry about the perception that Cameroonians are taking it. They should sideline the perception that he was a journalist and think about the fact that before being a journalist, he was a father, he was a brother, he was a son to somebody. So I thought it was time enough. Other countries have been speaking and Cameroon has not been listening, especially the citizens of Cameroon. So at one point in time, I tend to ask myself, who neutralized the brains of Cameroonians to a point where they don't know where to take their freedom into their hands? Who neutralized the brains of Cameroonians to a point where they have accepted death as a reality? They have accepted torture, they have accepted suffering as a norm. It is no longer a vice to be killed in Cameroon. At this point in time, we can just conclude that you are not safe, I am not safe, but one thing stands tall. It does not matter how much you repeat a lie, that becomes a truth. It remains truth. We all know the truth, and only that truth shall set this very God.
And now, Emmanuel, let's talk about the Anglophone crisis. We all know that Canada has extended a hand for the crisis to come to an end. They say they want to mediate. That was through the Canadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through the minister who is Honorable Melanie Joly. And in fact, when Canada extends that hand, most Cameroonians, especially Anglophone Cameroonians, welcomed it so well, because all of us want the Anglophone crisis to come to an end. How did you, as an Anglophone Cameroonian, personally, how did you receive the Canadian mediation as an Anglophone Cameroonian who has been suffering or who has been witnessing his or her compatriots, brothers and sisters, suffering for the past 6 years in the Northwest and the Southwest regions?
I tell you, in the first place, I am not so much very comfortable when I hear or I know that somebody somewhere is struggling to fix a problem back in Cameroon, whereas we think we had leaders in Cameroon. In that light, I will talk to you like somebody who is very close to people on the ground. I will tell you that when the people of Northwest and Southwest got that announcement, they heaved a sigh of relief. Most of them were already very, very happy. They were seriously waiting for such a moment, because for 6 to 7 years going, we have lost souls, we have lost vibrant youths in this part of the country. Call it Southern Cameroon, call it West Cameroon, call it Anglophone Cameroon, or call it Northwest and Southwest. The people of this area, they have suffered enough. But their joy, their euphoria that received this Canadian mediation did not last long in the people. Why? Because the Cameroonian government, through their spokesperson, came out 48 hours later to say they have never mandated anybody to talk on behalf of Cameroon. And at this point in time, we should be drawing a conclusion that between those they call the terrorists or the separatists or the secessionists, Cameroon government from day one was never willing to talk. We saw what happened with the arrest, the detention of the consortium members. At that point in time, there was every reason for them to talk. It is a sign. They have once more reaffirmed that as they were not ready to talk yesterday, they are not ready to talk today. And I want to think, everybody has been calling, everybody has been singing to this government, civil society, political parties, even within the ranks of the CPDM in Cameroon, they have been singing that we need to talk. There is sincere need and to sit down and talk. And if we keep turning around and around, there is one thing for sure. This war shall end on the table, and that is where it ought to have started. And that's the very bad thing about wars, because they always end up where they ought to have started in the first place. So I want to think that once more, the government has shown bad faith.
Emmanuel, you're already talking there about the government's reaction to the Canadian first outing from the Canadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And now, who can be profiting from the lies? Because somebody should be telling a lie somewhere, because Canada comes to say and insist even that they had already spoken with the government and also the different factions of the Anglophone separatists, and they have decided to come to a table to bring an end, look for a way to end the conflict. But the government comes and says the government of Cameroon has not mandated any country whatsoever to mediate for an end to the Anglophone crisis. Who can be profiting from the lie?
Well, you know, in diplomatic affairs, there are a lot of things that happen behind the curtain. I wouldn't stand here to say the government lied. I wouldn't stand here to say the Canadian High Office lied. Neither will I say the separatists lied. All of them, each of them has a particular truth that can be explained only by them. But what makes us to be holding the government accountable and thinking that the government has bad faith in ending this war, we'll call it a crisis, as some people are still calling it a crisis, because to us we know it's war. You know, for the government, we are told, and wisdom even has it, that if you can shake a hand with the devil and make peace, Anabila, shake the hand and make peace. Let's put into context that the Amazonians, I put it in quote, are the devil, and the government of Cameroon are the angels. Was it not an opportunity for the angels to shake hands with the devil to bring peace? I think in this life, every Cameroonian is disappointed. Only the few people who have chosen to use the guns may be happy. But I think personal ego too is attached to this, because the government might have gone to negotiate, and they might have failed to tell the Canadian authority that, please, let's do this backstage, so that the population only gets to know when the results are already there. And maybe along the line something happened, we already saw it being announced. But then, if it was announced, it was still an opportunity for the government to show good faith, so that even the world will be a witness to the government of Cameroon. Even the citizens, you and I, will be a witness to them, that they gave a hand to talk, and the Amazonians, I repeat in quote, did not want to talk. Remember, there was a national monologue in Cameroon that was called to satisfy CPDM militants, CPDM party militants. And at that particular time, we thought it was an opportunity for the government to take out Ayuk Kabe from Yaoundé, which they will not pay lump sums of money and negotiate with him. They instead went to look for CPDM press singers abroad, brought them to Cameroon. They even invited some of the separatists, whereas at that point in time, there was a warrant of arrest hanging on top of their head. This is why we keep questioning the government's faith and their genuity in solving this particular, or putting a stop to this war.
Well, don't forget that there was another outing from the Canadian government, let's just say from the Canadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They were insisting, after the government's rebuttal, refusing that they have not mandated anybody to mediate between the government of Cameroon and separatist fighters. The Canadian government came again, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Canada came out again to insist that they actually have already discussed with all the parties. Now, can there be some people who are profiting from the war in the northwest and the southwest, and they don't want the war to come to an end.
I will be very frank and succinct with you, Anne. You see, we have been blaming Mr. Biya. Maybe as a president for 40 years, he has been a lazy president. Yet, there are things he has done that we cannot wave with a hand without saying that he has done something. But one thing for sure is that the people who do not want this war to end in Northwest and Southwest are within the ranks of the government. And most of them, I want to say it clear tonight, I placed it on the Anglophone elite class. Even Mr. Biya today wanted to talk genuinely, because I know Mr. Biya wants this war to get to an end. He wants it. His entourage, with all the benefits they have been benefiting, they don't want it to end. And the Anglophone elites who have been in Yaoundé benefiting from it, they are aware that if Mr. Biya gives an opportunity for any talks, this war will come to an end. And therefore, what happens to what they have all benefited, the wealth they have amassed, what they have constructed during as a result of this war? Because remember, this war is also an economic opportunity. The Northwest and Southwest elite have refused blatantly several times that there is no war in Northwest and Southwest. They are even the ones who said only pockets of resistance are left in Northwest and Southwest. When at one point in time, the Prime Minister John Gute, who has a sound academic background, which we thought if he had a free hand, he would have been able to contribute something that can lead to the end of this crisis, was in Northwest, dancing with peace plans. There was an Anglophone elite on RFE telling the whole world that we will never dialogue with terrorists. And we all know that these words are the words that have been sowing seeds of discord, seeds that has made the two parties not to be able to come together. We all know that within the ranks of this government, there are some officials there who are worse than the terrorists we have ever heard on earth. Yet, if Mr. Biya has been pardoning them, if for all this while Mr. Biya has been also be able to use his pen to free some high-profile criminals, thieves in this country out of the prisons, I think if they are not going to dialogue or to go to the table for negotiation with the Canadian, one thing is left, and I wish that Mr. Biya should leave power with a legacy, and that legacy should be the ending of this war. And to end this war, there is only one thing. If you grant amnesty to all those people abroad, they are our brothers. They have got frustrated somehow, and they did what they are doing. They started doing what they are doing. But I think at one point in time, it is never too late to tamper justice.
Thank you, Emmanuel Tiwum, for your time. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. Don't go away. Our programs continue at 7 p.m. Equinoxe Soir with Sacha Lanotou, and at 8 p.m. Julien Beth Bissal will be with you in the studio for the news in the French language. Bye-bye for now.